It was good, it was helpful. Where do you want to start, which one? There's a bunch of them.
Whatever we can do quickly. I'm fading.
Did you put it in there?
Probably the bands are the easiest to start with there.
Yeah, the bands are. Yeah, the bands are.
Article.
So Articles 31, 32.
No, 31st is planning board.
These are all planning board.
No.
32 is a new one.
32 is.
You're looking at an old chart.
31 is a new article too, Kelly.
Just think about our streets.
This
Constitution
is
of
the
the
one you
planning
handed,
board.
this is the one you handed me.
That was from a week ago.
We're gonna change the planning board to.
So
5
it
members.
eliminates term limits for planning board.
Ah, So that's new too.
That was from last week, I thought you saw that, I'm sorry.
No.
We
So
can
there's
get
a
that.
change to the numbers?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
that's
your
what I thought.
marijuana will be 32.
Which one is that, the general bylaw?
Yeah. Marijuana.
Who's doing the planning board bylaw?
That must be.
That must be you.
Must be me, all right.
That's you.
I've been voluntold.
Yeah. Well, you're our liaison. So it eliminates term limits.
Okay.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, no, I have not either. Do you want to do that Monday night, Lou, because you want to look at it?
Yeah, that makes sense, and I can talk to the chair. Or,
Okay.
I mean, is it just, it's just.
It was
term limits?
recommended by the board, a selectman.
Well, it's probably worth just talking with the planning board.
Wait, what's the rationale to have term limits?
Just to not have term limits?
No, to have them, why?
To have term limits is just so you're forcing new people to be
New
involved.
ideas.
To not have term limits is when it's hard to find people to fill the
Right.
slots, and you wanna, if there's
Yeah.
people that are
Maintain
knowledgeable and
expertise.
up
Yeah,
to
no,
speed.
I'm just sort of,
Yeah.
why,
Janine?
That's
why
my
the
guess.
planning board, not everyone else?
So there is a theory, I sit on the planning board, there is a theory that you want to make sure, much as you would want someone who is in charge of your books to take 2 weeks off, so that someone else is there, there's the opportunity for other people to serve and to make sure that you have the, I think there's an argument that more boards should have term limits.
Okay.
So
Okay, but it's elected, right? You're elected.
it is elected,
So
yes.
if people run, well,
Yeah.
We have had people run, so.
Oh, okay.
yeah. And it's just a question of what the voters want.
And Kelly, do we know if it's, it says, the old bylaw was 3 consecutive terms, so is this 3 terms, whether they're consecutive or not?
Currently, we have people who have served 3 terms, taken a year off, run and served again. So it's not a lifetime limit, it's consecutive terms. It's the way that we've operated. I mean, if you took it to KP, I don't know if that's what they would say now, but that is our,
Has the planning board voted on it?
no, it has not been discussed by the planning board at all.
Well, why don't you talk to
It
them?
sounds
All
like
right.
it, but-
All right.
Okay, now it's time for Eric, starting with the new Article 30 seconds, general bylaws marijuana establishments.
Well, the bylaw kind of rolls into some of the other ones here with regards to 33 and 34. You know, I think probably be more prudent to talk to 33 and 34 first. The planning board doesn't vote on the actual bylaw itself. So I'm not sure how that's going to be handled at town meeting, because you guys didn't vote on the bylaw for changing the bylaw. To amend the bylaw.
On the general,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah,
Right, we didn't vote on the general because it's not actually ours.
that's right.
Right.
Right. So to speak to what the planning board did vote on specifically, Article 33, amend the zoning bylaw for the temporary moratorium of recreational establishments. So this one is obviously to this was voted, to have a temporary moratorium was voted prior last year. And now it's basically saying, removing the temporary and basically saying, we're not gonna have recreational marijuana establishments.
They're just not permitted.
It's not permitted.
Sort of like
Right.
like the old days.
So, that was voted on, as a positive action. I don't know how others feel about it. I would support a positive action on that.
Meaning not permitted.
Meaning not permitted,
Yeah.
as it's written.
And I think the general bylaw does the same exact thing, and the reason why it's two places, it's built as suspenders, because it's not clear whether or not this prohibition should be done under a general or a zoning, so
That's
you can
right.
almost consider them at the same time.
That's right, yeah. We could
Like-
vote those for.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, if you're not for one, you,
correct.
That's
What
right.
do you think the sentiment of the town on this is? My confirmation
town-
bias is the town doesn't want to do it.
The town voted against recreational marijuana, something like 57 to 43% at the 2016
Exactly.
Was
election.
that close?
It's not that close, like, really. Well, I
Oh,
mean,
well, okay,
it's-
sorry, in my holier than thou world of it.
So it was, because they voted against that, we can do this ban
Yeah.
to town meeting.
Right,
And that's,
yeah.
whether or not we get the 2/3 vote required, it might be a question, but I think that the
Right.
general feeling is that the town, based on the 2016 vote, the town is against recreational
Right,
marijuana.
yeah. It was just supposed to have been, the number you gave, I thought it was gonna be like 5 to 15 kind of thing.
No, I was surprised too when I heard that
Yeah.
Tuesday night. The split, that was the
Right.
same thing, I was, to me, that was close.
Right.
so, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, well, Article 33rd.
You wanna do 32nd and 33rd?
Yeah, we can do it both at the same time. Move positive action on Article 32nd and 33rd. 32nd, to adopt the general bylaw for marijuana establishment. 33rd, to amend the temporary moratorium on recreational marijuana establishments. Move for positive action on both.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 34th, that's just the table of contents.
Yeah, 34 is definitions. Basically amending the table of contents from the 34 and the warrant.
Whatever. Well, sort of matches with everything else.
It's all lined up there, so
Okay,
I've moved for positive action on that.
is there a second?
It was a very specific amendment or a motion there.
Well, it's all tied, it's definitional, right, so it's amending the table. of
I'm just
contents.
razzing you because it's easy.
I will
Yeah.
second it.
Now to the tough one.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
no, I get you to my little thing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
You're gonna leave for the interesting
No,
discussion. So, 35th, this is the one, give a little history on it. This is the one where there's an article to create a zoning for an overlay district for medical marijuana cultivation. So there's a,
So medical, not recreation.
That's right, it's
Okay.
medical, not
Just Trying
recreational.
to stay on top.
this is not,
It's not selling.
it's
Not
not
medical
selling, this is not a facility.
Right.
This is an overlay district within the business district to give a particular family that is petitioned that's filed for a license to do this, to grow medical marijuana in a closed facility and distribute outside of Topsfield, so transport and distribute away from Topsfield. So this would be, this would be obviously pretty contentious, seems to be pretty contentious, I think, by some folks that I've talked to around, whether or not this is something that we want to have in the town. There's conversations that coming up about the actual revenue. I think the impetus for some folks that are interested in having this in the town is that there will be a potential for additional revenue through what's called a host community agreement. This particular family that is filing for this would apply for a host community agreement and get permission to do this, and as a result of that, there'd be potential additional revenue to the town. Now, John Spencer, the Board of Selectmen, got up and spoke to the planning board on Tuesday night and gave some thoughts as he's gone through and done some fact-finding and research around it. Based on the HCA, the host community agreement, they're estimating it could be approximately an additional $100,000 a year in revenue coming into the town. That's just from the HCA. There's the downstream impact of the fact that the family that does this is going to need to build a facility because it needs to be done in an enclosed facility. So as a result of that, there's going to be increased property value and additional property tax revenue that comes off of that. It's hard to gauge. From what I was hearing, it's very difficult to gauge what the actual dollar amount to that is going to be. Some numbers were thrown around of anywhere between $25,000 and $50,000 in annual tax revenue, but did not see any specific projections or plans surrounding that. It's kind of just some estimates and numbers that are being.
What cost would it bring in on that impact the town?
Well, we talked about that too, in terms of safety. They would have to provide their own security for the facility, but that's an unknown in terms of, what it could potentially mean from a safety perspective, impacts to the police. This is very greenfield here, kind of cutting edge, I would say. But it's a highly capital intensive, highly regulated business that this particular family is undertaking. And I think there's a lot of unknowns.
Was there any, so, what's that, like in, when you watch James Bond movies, you have suspended disbelief. So if I suspend disbelief and think that this is modern agriculture and everybody's for it,
Hydroponics.
it's a lot of leaping, but just say we all got there, right? Something that makes me sad is every time I go to Denver, that whole east side of Denver, between the airport and the city of Denver, is all it's all marijuana. It's growing, it's dispensing, and there's like a back door from medical into medical growing to then consumer recreational selling.
That's.
So that's my biggest thing, is like, if everybody gets supportive of it,
That's right.
what fail-safes do we have that it's not a back door to that? Or is it all unknown?
Yeah, I mean.
Because the state's still rewriting everything.
So the zoning, they'll only be permitted, it won't be a legal backdoor, because they'll only be permitted to do cultivation, no retail, and that will be spelled out in the special permit for the construction of the greenhouse, and that would also be spelled out in the host community agreement. Now, whether or not there would be some sort of nighttime or illicit sales of marijuana, that might be a different concern, but legally on paper, they wouldn't be able to
Turn it into
into
recreational
or retail.
Yeah.
Lou, can I ask you a question about that? Karen, can I ask a question that I hope would clarify for all of us about, so places that had medical marijuana dispensaries in place, or they have them in place July 1st of this year, are going to be, July 1st of last year, will be able to switch over to recreational. They by right, like regardless of what the town has done, by right, they're gonna be able to do that. So do we have any assurance that the state won't? That's what I'm concerned, because towns
No.
didn't know that was gonna happen
Right,
either.
So the legislation can always change, but as you alluded to, there's medical marijuana facilities can only have a right to convert to recreational if they do it, if they have a license issued before July 1st, 2017. And I think that through our bylaws, if we only allow cultivation, then they wouldn't have that right. Now, I don't know what the state's gonna legislate, I can't predict that, but that's the way it currently is. And I think there'd be a lot of angry voters if they were to change that back, so.
To your question, Mike, this is not a dispensary, and it's why Topsfield, is
Why
because
yeah.
this family has land
Oh,
in
okay.
Topsfield, they're doing it on their own land, half of their land is in Topsfield, part of
Okay.
their land is in Hamilton, and they made the decision that they wanted to file within Topsfield.
I was just wondering, I mean,
Yeah,
I'd grow somewhere where the water's cheap.
That's the impetus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't understand why anybody,
Yeah.
I can't see the economics in terms
Right.
of
Well,
why
yeah.
somebody would spend that much money to get into
Right.
building a facility like this and then have to adhere to all the regulations and transportation and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Can I throw something else out there? If we allow this and the property goes back on the tax rolls, so that we get the real estate taxes like Eric was stating, but also wouldn't be converted to a residential subdivision, it'd be, which has different implications, but that's, we don't know what this family's gonna do with the property once the matriarch of the family is no longer with us, so.
This is like an episode of Weeds.
So this is laying the groundwork, setting the overlay district in place. Still doesn't necessarily mean that it's a slam dunk, that's going to happen. What I found interesting was that, obviously the planning board being in the position that they're in, that they have to make a vote, which, by the way, they did vote positive action on this.
What was the vote?
The vote was unanimous. Was it unanimous?
Martha never asked for no votes.
Oh, okay,
She only asked for positive votes. I did not vote.
okay.
And there was one abstention, because there's a property owner that would be
That's right.
affected, so
One of
he
the members of the
he
planning board.
recused himself from the vote. So there were only 4 available
It
voting
passed.
members.
And the vote, the premise, from what I gathered, was that the planning board being in the position that they're in has to vote on the overlay district by itself without seeing the host community agreement or really necessarily taking the details of that HCA into account. I think from our perspective,
But then why do they have to vote on it now?
vote on it now because if it's done before town meeting, it's done this year, then this family would have the ability to
I know, but
file.
if they-
to get the-
if
They
they
won't have to
Could I-
vote on the zoning bylaw, just by law, they vote on all zoning amendment bylaws.
And we had to vote on this. The property owner has a right to petition for a zoning change.
Oh.
So
They
the,
can
so the
call the
property
vote.
owners
They can call the vote. They have the right.
have petitioned for this change. And so it's not something that was placed on by the planning board, but we have an obligation to respond to it because we have to
So it's
recognize that
almost like a
property owner's
form of a
right.
citizen's petition, almost.
It's similar to that, yes.
Even though it's a zoning
So
issue.
my takeaway is that there's still a lot to learn here. The way I understand it is there is potentially going to be a public forum for more discussion and debate on this. I personally would love to see the details of the host community agreement and what's involved in that before going ahead and voting positive action on this. I think, based on our experiences in the past, we have time, we can do recommendation
I
pending
mean,
on this.
for example, if it's a guaranteed 100,000 a year, that's very different than if it's a percentage of sales.
Right,
It's
we don't know.
approximated
We
at
gotta
100,000
see
a
that
year with no
agreement.
minimum, right? So,
The usual is you have a floor, you have tiers basically with percentage, so it doesn't really change the fact that I'm not comfortable voting it until we have the host community agreement, but it's usually there's a floor, something guaranteed.
yeah, what's good.
Yeah, but we don't know until we see the agreement.
Because that changes the whole.
Right, you just don't know. I'd like to learn more, and I think we have time, and in the past, we have put recommendation pending
Yes.
on the warrant. It can go out that way. We can learn more in the next 30 days. We
Yeah.
can make a decision as a group before we go
I think that's a
in.
good course.
and
I like
put
it. Make a motion.
Motion on Article 35th for recommendation pending.
Second.
More discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 36, the sign regulations.
Signs, yeah, that was another fun one. That took a good hour of the planning board meeting.
Okay, we cannot take an hour here, right?
Next week, this is only gonna be
Okay.
like the first third of the meeting,
Okay.
Oh my lord.
10:30?
Should you wanna take bets on which one's gonna take it?
Mm.
On which are just gonna take time?
The idea here is to not have a lot of big flashing neon signs, blinking, fancy things going on all over town. So, it's a consistent zoning bylaw that's put in place to basically say that any business that has internally illuminated open signs don't exceed 4 square feet, so it limits the size of that. May be illuminated in the window of the establishment during business hours. Signs cannot be, they must be steady, not blinking or animated. There was a lot of discussion that came up around subsection B here, around A-frames and when those are allowed to be used. I think there's some concerns that there'll be A-frame signs popping up all over town. So banners, flags, pennants, A-frames must be in front of the business establishment during regular business hours. They need to be taken in at night. Can't obstruct the sidewalks or pedestrian or vehicular traffic. This is another one that passed at the planning board.
And is this what's the origination of this one? Is this a?
The sign bylaw is in existence.
Right.
A citizen wrote a letter to the Board of Selectmen quite a while ago now, pointing out how little compliance there was with our existing bylaw. And so this is an attempt to make it clearer for our enforcement officer to enforce the
Okay.
bylaw.
And you know what the vote was? Yeah.
So, but why aren't they just enforcing the existing law?
This clarifies some of the things. A-frames were completely forbidden.
They weren't,
They were
But they're
originally,
everywhere.
but they are being used, and there's an argument that there's a justification for them in certain circumstances.
Yeah.
So this codifies it so that it, the building inspector has the opportunity to point to it.
It's for enforcement.
Okay, no, I just,
Yeah,
but why aren't they
yeah.
enforcing the, you know? That's an operational issue,
Yeah.
it's not my word.
I personally don't see any issue with this.
Okay, you wanna make a motion?
Let's vote positive action on it.
Yeah.
Second.
Further discussion?
Well, I do have a discussion. So we're talking about like the banners that have to come down. Like, so like Country Farms has a banner up there.
Mhm.
They're gonna want them to take that down every night.
The A-frames will have to come in every night.
Okay, how about the banner?
Well, this says banners
I
too.
can't think
It's
of
a
what the
banner.
banner
There's
looks
flags
like
and banners,
there.
yeah, board lighting.
They
Yeah, the
obviously
temporary
have
sign.
a fixed sign.
Yeah.
Well,
this
so,
is-
okay, so I think they want to fix a sign on that skeleton that's sitting up there. For some reason, now someone's not letting them do it,
Right.
and so they have a banner. And so I feel like there's this unintended.
Yeah,
Well, they can do it with the permit.
That's
It's gotta
right.
be over a certain amount of time.
That's right, they can apply for a special permit while they're going through that transition.
And who's
It's
not
not.
apply to who for the special permit?
Board of Selectmen.
The selectmen own signs.
Yeah.
Okay.
The issue with
Selectmen always
the
own
issue with that
signs.
skeleton sign is that thing got put in before, if we had a time machine, that is a non-conforming sign.
Agreed.
It's grandfathered.
Okay.
So I think, I mean, I know nothing about the discussion, but
Right.
if there's any holdup, it's because now that there's a new group in there, you know, how do you get the sign to be more of a conforming sign? Is my understanding.
Well, I think the unintended consequences is it's not, it's grandfathered in, and nobody's gonna do anything with it. So, all right, so the banner thing, I think, bothers me. Like the A-frames, but that's a significant amount of work for that.
I think a lot of the impetus to that was, a lot of the driving up and down Route 1 and from the dealerships and the gas station and those pennants and those that are freestanding out there. And,
Sure.
That was kind of
Okay.
driving to that,
Okay.
taking away from the character of the town.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
To abstain.
Abstain? Okay, plastic bags.
Plastic bags?
That's you, right?
That's me.
You're on
Plastic
a roll,
bag.
Eric.
Yeah. Plastic bags, this was a citizen's petition that got put forth to basically take away from all business establishments, retail establishments being able to use plastic bags, rather be substituted with paper, biodegradable bags, or folks can bring their own cloth bags in and get their products. You know, I spoke to the individual that the petitioner on this one. You know, he's an avid environmentalist and very much enthusiastic about cleaning up the town and not having plastic bags hanging up in trees that he can't get access to, and I can certainly understand that. I went around and talked to some business owners around here. The responses I got were very favorable in the sense of the businesses themselves don't seem to mind switching from plastic to paper. The big issue is that plastic bags typically cost, you know, around 1 penny per bag, and paper bags cost anywhere from 5 to 8 cents a bag. So what'll happen if this goes through is essentially you'll find businesses likely passing that cost down to the retailers and their prices of their goods. So great for the environment, but it'll certainly cost a bit more for folks to be green. My feeling is that the town feels that strongly about it and they want it, as long as they understand that it could potentially be a slight increase. You're gonna end up paying more.
Right, and I would add that I don't think it's gonna make any difference in the amount of plastic bags that we see around the town.
Right, and I
Based on
mentioned,
your survey.
I mentioned your field work that you did. I said, it's funny, you know, the bags that we found, the majority of the bags actually weren't from Topsfield, they were from outside.
Right.
Karen, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Would this impact vendors at the Strawberry Festival? And how would we communicate it? And then also the,
In the fair?
well, but like the library trustees or the Friends of the Library do the library sale, I think they often use
Yeah.
old bags. Is that considered reuse, so it's covered, or
This is
just
for the
clarity
law.
on those things might be good to have before town meeting?
Well, it's broad and it's got teeth in it too.
Very well, yeah.
And there were measurements of bag thickness, so a sturdy plastic bag is okay, but a thin film one is not.
Yeah, I think implementation is definitely, with any of these, a lot of these articles,
I mean,
challenging.
The way it's written could be, it could apply to me using this bag right now to carry my stuff out the door.
Right.
I'd rather just see it come to the better rate.
Well, there already is one of those,
Okay, so,
but it's hard to enforce because you have to see the person
Okay.
do it or
Versus
be able to
enforcing water
trace the
ban.
material.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, the watering ban,
I know.
by and see. Catching a bag flying
Yeah, well,
out
I guess it
somebody's
comes down to the
recycle cup.
definition of retail establishments,
I
right?
don't
What
know.
is, if we consider a retail, does the Strawberry Festival being a temporary thing considered a retail establishment?
This is general bylaw, right, not zoning. So we don't have any definitions in the general bylaws for that.
On what a retail establishment is?
I mean, I don't feel that strongly about this one way or the other.
Me neither.
So I could put it to town meeting to vote on it, but that's not what we can vote.
Well, we can,
we could vote.
They can
Well-
vote over a recommendation, we're just doing a recommendation. so.
yeah,
Wait, but-
we can,
What if we all abstain on the vote?
that would, I think, come out to no action.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it would be one of those where,
The problem is that we have to say positive action or no action.
Okay.
It's not a, hey, we think the town should vote on that.
or
Yeah.
recommendation pending,
Yeah.
and try to clarify, but
But again,
It's the way it's
a
written.
good point that was raised about the implementation and enforcement of it, what that would
Or penalties.
It's the focus and the scope and the
Do-
definition.
Right.
Do we wanna just make it do a recommendation pending, like, until we hear what the planning board has to say, until we.
Yeah, but I don't think this is gonna get brought to the planning, it's not gonna get brought to the planning board.
Sorry.
We're not gonna know more information.
Yeah, you're not gonna get any more information. You'd be approving it in concept.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, you could say no action, and you could say, look, it's up to the voters to vote, this is why we said no action.
Yeah. That's what
And
you're-
if somebody then wants to say, oh, yeah, I see the problem, and makes a
Yeah.
motion to amend,
Then they
Yeah.
can vote from there.
Maybe we have a more
That sounds good.
thought out one as subsequent topic.
yeah.
Maybe, all right, Al, yours, you want to
You can make it if you want.
I move that we recommend no action on Article 37.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed, abstained. 38, secret ballot, is that yours?
That's me, do the short straw. I gotta tell you, my attitude around this secret ballot citizens petition has definitely changed from when I first heard it 2 years ago. I think there's a compelling case for it. We, as a committee, there was some data that was sent around some of the towns and their processes and feedback, and several towns in Essex County were looked at, and it was kind of a mixed review in terms of some towns, very much not having a problem with it not being utilized all that much. There's certainly some comments around the potential for abuse. I think that's my biggest concern around the secret ballot. I think, and the way I feel about this is, and what we're seeing, that having at least 15 of the voters present and standing to take action to this is, I think, too little amount. If this was written differently than it's written right now, I'd more likely get behind it, I think, a lot easier. As it's written today, I don't feel I would be moving for anything other than no action on this. I think if folks, on the floor want to amend it to include a larger number of individuals that would be required to affect the secret ballot vote, I think they likely have a better chance of getting that pushed through. But as it stands right now, I can't get, it's really, I'm getting hung up on the number because my biggest concern is abuse of this, and I don't know how others feel about it.
Well, I wasn't here last week, but I read the materials, and, we talked about it a couple of years ago. And regardless of little questions of time or cost or number of people recommending, I come down to a fundamental issue, that town meetings about people speaking their mind and having civil discourse with respect. And we try to teach our kids to be tolerant of different opinions, different people, whatever, and to respect that. And to say that, well, there are some issues that town meeting addresses. I agree if you're talking about Big Brother or starting World War III or something, maybe you need a secret ballot. But for what town meeting talks about,
I thought about that
I
too.
just have a fundamental issue that it feels like people are worried about being bullied, and town meeting should be better than that.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also agree and I've kind of changed my view a bit on this in the sense that it doesn't take away from our ability to debate issues.
Oh, no, it's not
So
about the
people
debate.
can still get up,
Yeah.
they can still talk, they can still debate. For those that don't feel comfortable doing that, to have the ability to still have their vote. Certainly, there's been a lot of contentious issues and things around some of the larger dollar amount projects, and how the votes went, how close they were in some cases, but the idea of it, of those particular issues potentially creating a bit of an audit trail and being able to say, no, we have a record of it, I think is appealing to me. I'm struggling with the fact that there could be such a small amount of people that are just, abusing the system.
So, I understand what you're saying, but even if they change the number from 15, I don't think philosophically I could get behind a secret ballot. I mean, by definition, it's less transparency, and I want to know, in particular, how, I want to know who's voting on what as part of the legislative process, especially our elected officials. And I mean, I think it's part of the process, that's how we've always done it. I don't know if people would feel differently if a secret ballot was called by, say, the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen and the school committee. I mean, that's.
Oh, you
So that's
mean in a vote here?
Right, right,
where-
so that
that's where
would happen.
That's where I came out, was, I don't think we should discard it as a tool, but it shouldn't be a tool that's just used all the time. But like, for example,
How do you
if
put
the,
limits around it?
but if the town was like, look, if we're gonna do a project that's over this size, the
Right.
Board of Selectmen can determine if it's gonna be a secret ballot or not.
What, put it on the warrant beforehand?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, look, this one, we know it's, we are anticipating that it's a sensitive one, we're gonna have a secret
So-
ballot on it. That way you can ensure that it's,
But that's a,
0 to 1 a year.
that's
as
a
opposed to
call from
5,
the
6.
moderator, and the procedural call is under the power of the moderator. I don't know that the selectmen could do that. Maybe we could consider it beforehand and talk to the moderator about it, but.
Yeah.
Well, effectively, if you're doing a large dollar project, it's probably a debt exclusion, at which point it is going to the polls, which is secret. But,
Yes, I've got my sense, Karen.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, we should be able to have town hall meetings where everyone talks out and feels free from contribution. But I would say in
Or
two
stands
of,
up
but
and
I would
vote.
say in 2 of them, I don't think that's been the case. And that's the part, I mean, I wish there was an ideal world, but I don't think we have an ideal world.
But it's a lot easier to vote than it is to get up and speak your mind. Some people might be afraid of public speaking, but to say aye or nay.
Okay, so.
yeah, or to stand up, or
Yeah,
to raise
so-
your hand.
So my inclination is to run the experiment, and if it's too burdensome, if we don't get up till 3 in the morning,
But I think,
But then you have a bylaw on the books that you have to
Yeah.
rescind.
But
I don't want to do
so
that.
Trial and error is not the
Right,
right way
I
to
mean,
do it.
North Andover, there's 25%.
Middleton's
of-
25%.
North Andover, there's 25% of the body attending request a secret ballot, and it was indicated in here that they think that that's even too low, that maybe it should be, a majority that declares it.
Well, I'm not sure the majority is right either,
Sort
because
of.
then it defeats the purpose, but Middleton is at 25% too.
hang on,
Right.
hang on, while we do all our,
yeah, so hypothetically, let's say we could have the secret ballot friction-free, right? It's, boom, our secret ballot, everyone pulls out their magic secret ballot one, and,
you have the clicker.
right,
done.
and then boom, so there's no friction, it happens without delaying town meeting at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I still want to know how people vote,
You do?
especially my elected officials, absolutely.
Elected officials, I'm talking town meeting.
They're all
Board of
voting.
Selectmen.
But we, in
Take a
town
vote.
meeting, we are
We are
all,
voting.
we
Okay.
are the body.
Oh, okay,
Everybody
okay. Oh, so we could,
is,
all right, so.
is determining. I think regardless of issues of ease or cost or time or whatever.
Okay, so that's definitely
I'm-
legit,
Lou
but,
and I think are on the
Yeah,
philosophical side.
You won't get to see how the selectmen, on what position the selectmen that you voted in.
So-
Okay,
so I think I'm-
issues.
99% there, or 98% there, and I think 2% in the kind of oddball situations where everybody's up in arms, you can use it as a way to, do it more civilly.
right.
But that's not how it's written.
That's not how it's written.
And I think Eric's thinking somewhere along that way too, but it's not how it's gone.
So can the current moderator, of the way we exist now, just call for a secret ballot and say,
So I want to make a motion on the floor, probably not the moderator, the moderator just
Right.
moderates the meeting.
mm-hmm,
And there's nothing prohibiting it, it would probably be better for, if we were going to do it, to have a process spelled out.
Sure, you have to have a process. I mean, somebody can't just go into town meeting right now, make a motion on the floor, and you have no way to implement that.
okay.
You can't implement that on the fly.
Well, I mean, you could do a voice vote for a simple majority to have a secret ballot, but what's the point?
The point is, if they say, yes, let's have a secret ballot, and we don't have a process to put it, to actually execute on it, how are you gonna?
So my question is,
Oh.
can the moderator enforce a secret ballot if he or she wants to? In today's law, like it says, oh man, this is going crazy, we should have a secret ballot because,
Town meeting, basically, you know, just, you can do it as long as.
Yes,
yeah.
she has
But
a
it's
town meeting
not
there.
the moderator, it's
Yeah,
it's town meeting. Which is
I'm
all
trying to
people.
fit- yeah, so I'm trying to say, but, you know, if we were trying to run an experiment, which I know people don't want, but, you know, but if there could be a concerted effort by whoever can implement secret ballots to do it if it gets hot enough.
But
A lot of towns have this, you know, I don't think it's totally absurd by any means. I just wish there was some more defined parameters around it. I feel it's way too open-ended.
I am philosophically opposed because it's less transparent by definition.
And I think we ought to be holding ourselves to a civil standard, that, you know, you can agree to disagree respectfully, and I think we should all be aiming for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but 2016 was not.
Well, I was the one who was pointed at and
Yeah,
called
right, I
out
know,
last
right,
year,
right.
but I still
Yeah.
think it's about being civil. That's what we should all be striving for, that's what we're trying to teach kids. So, is that everybody's thoughts here? Tony wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just, first of all, it is up to the moderator if they want, if they have the right now to choose a secret ballot. But that's one person in our entire town who can choose whether or not we have a secret ballot. At least if we have something like this, now you're leaving it into democracy. You're letting the people decide, do we want to have a secret ballot on an item or not? And I understand your concern about, well, 15 sounds low, but think about this. Right now, it's the state statute that if 7 people raise their hand, they can require a counting of the vote. So 7 people can, somebody can say, I challenge that vote. As long as 7 people raise their hand, that forces us into having to count a vote. And that is very cumbersome. Like, in the information, and Libby did a great job, and we're very grateful to the other towns who responded so quickly, right? But, you know, Raleigh actually is a town somewhat our size, right? They're like 6,400. They have this in the bylaw. They do specifically say about any items that are over a certain dollar value, but I ask you to reconsider to think contentious things that don't have a dollar value. Rail
Oh,
trail,
yeah, no, I get that, yeah.
you know, the
Leash
dog
law.
leash, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah, yeah.
But what she says in here is she says that, you know, the ballots are collected, the counters move to the front and count, and the moderator goes on to the next article. That was a concern the moderator had about delaying the meeting. She's saying you don't have to do it. And she says it works. I'd rather do paper counts than hand counts. So, you know, it gets back to, this is an opportunity to me to allow the people to decide when it's a sensitive issue. Because the town hall came up as a special town meeting, right? And if any time we should have had a secret ballot, that's when we should have done it. And the moderator had the opportunity to do that and didn't. And I think that, you know, if you leave it up to the people, right now, think about how many times at a meeting do people say, I challenge that vote? How many times does that happen? And you only need 7. This is 15. I really don't, you know, it's a matter of being able to give people their right to be able to heard. And I understand you're like, well, we're all grown-ups and everything like that. But some people really feel that they cannot vote. Business owners have told me they can't vote on contentious items because there will be repercussions. People say things to them afterward, right? So this is to try to make this a democracy in the voting part. And the reality is, if there is abuse, then you're right. then as a town, we can rescind it. But we're not even abusing what the state allows us to do now.
I think a lot of people don't know that rule.
They're gonna know.
They're gonna know, and.
They're gonna
and-
know.
And I
Yeah.
guarantee you, when
And-
they find out, there will be a handful of folks that will actually abuse
But,
that.
but
And-
that's still public. It's
Yeah.
still, you know how people vote.
Right.
Well, thank
And
you, Tom.
may I just
Is
make
there
one other comment? I
an
think there's a
extra?
typo. Because it's section 2.1, and it's then section 1-1.7. And in the original thing that we submitted, it was section 2-1.7.
Kelly, you wanna,
Yeah, like
30, it's now 38, if you can check, Kelly.
Yeah, yeah, because on the original that was signed, it was 2. Right.
Yeah, again, I agree with a lot of the comments that you're making, and, but knowing how some things have operated around here, being as part of town government, what I've seen, I'm very concerned that 15 is just too low of a number.
Okay, well,
Okay, thank you.
we've surfaced all the information. Do you wanna vote? Do you wanna make a recommendation? Do you want the full committee to be here?
Yeah, let's wait for Monday.
So we're gonna have this whole discussion again on Monday?
Well, I don't know, were Shay and Dana here last week?
No, not when we were discussing this.
I
Oh,
Dana was here.
Dana was here, Dana was here on the
that
23rd.
But we didn't talk about it, we
Can we-
said, oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, can we make a motion and then revisit it on Monday if we have to?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine.
make a motion to, and possible to supersede.
I will make a motion on Article 38, citizen petition for secret ballot, that's currently written, to move for no action.
Second.
Okay, and possible to supersede.
Possible to supersede.
Okay. Enough discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstained?
The scientist.
Yep. Social experiments.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see, Charter Revision Committee. Do you wanna do that, Lou, or are you still surfacing information?
So I'm still trying to talk to whoever sponsored the petition. That hasn't gone that smoothly. I've reached out to several people and reached out to someone again today. And I'm hoping to get, be contacted with the person who is going to be speaking to us and or at town meeting to sponsor the article, that person. No one stepped forward.
Okay, Monday night then. Okay, and free cash to offset the tax rate, well, that has to wait to balance. Special town meeting. We talked about that.
That's STM.
Which Kelly handed out. As of March 22nd, you can't do prior year bills until it's all wound up. We won't do budget transfers until it's all wound up, that should be the night of town meeting. Rescind prior year borrowing. Excuse me, this was borrowing that was authorized but not used, so we don't need it anymore. We don't need it as a hit against. The prior year borrow?
No,
Oh.
I'm looking at that, started looking at it, I gotta change something.
Okay. Basically, we don't need to borrow that amount, so we shouldn't leave the borrowing authorization hanging out there. Okay?
I move positive action on Article 4 of the special town meeting to rescind 50,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay,
Did you guys vote on Article 39?
We did, but, what was on
The charter revision?
oh,
No, we haven't
Lucius-
voted it
Lucius
yet.
said he wants to wait till
Oh, you
Monday.
done, okay. Missed that one.
Article 5, the programming space for the Council on Aging. We need to know where we're transferring from before we can vote this. I think.
I'm not sure where, I was gonna cover that with the budget transfers when we got a
Okay.
chance to.
So,
All right now, it's coming out free cash, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, okay, but.
Well,
It's
it-
a transfer, and another cash, so we're just gonna find excess appropriation from somewhere else to fund it.
might as well. I mean, the goal is to get it done so you can rent before June 30th, get it spent, whatever the source. Article 6, police tasers.
Should we wait for Che?
Well, we're doing police on Monday.
Yeah.
Same with the next one.
Let's see, so those are waiting, so that's, traffic safety, same thing, the highway dump truck, sander with plow. We still need the list of ATM turnbacks, right?
We have that, I have to just put the wording into the warrant, I'll do that tomorrow.
Monday night. And the PEG access, the cable related fund, Article 9. Operating budget. So we have the funds, it's what came out of our cable bills, and
That's it, aside.
and we know what the expenses are.
Mhm.
So this is complete and accurate.
Yes.
Would someone like to make a motion on Article 9?
I will move for positive action on Article 9 for the PEG access and cable related fund operating budget appropriation. Recommend for positive action for $5,132 to be appropriated to fund the PEG professional services, and for the sum of, make sure I read this correctly, and for the sum of $471 for the PEG and cable access services and PEG legal services, for the sum of $4,661 for oversight and renewal of cable franchise agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
And discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, and the capital appropriation for equipment in the new town hall. After all this, how much money ends up left?
We have, excuse me, do you recall, I know it was more than 100,000.
It is 177,000.
After we
Roughly.
do all this?
Oh,
No,
no,
that's
that's
the
right
balance
down.
of it.
So there'll be 100,000, about
Okay.
a little bit less than 100,000 after
Start
we make
looking at
this.
it.
But this sort of thing is exactly,
What
What that
the,
fund is meant for.
exactly,
and money flows into it all the time from our cable
yes.
bills.
yes.
Well,
Quarterly.
Is this a step up from what we have now?
The
It's in the
equipment?
Proctor
Yeah.
School Library?
It will be because we're doing a new broadcast system replacement and will allow us high def recording, all of the new audio for the town hall and the cameras and the audio equipment. So
And we-
the quality will be a lot better, and part of this is the labor and installation.
That's what I'm worried about, I'm seeing like that.
Alright, well, don't, I guess we know where your vote is then. You'll have to powder your nose before FinCom meetings.
someone like to make a motion?
I budget fund capital appropriation, and the total amount of $78,230, broken down as listed in the draft warrant dated May 1st, 2018.
It's dated March 22nd. The meeting is May 1st.
Oh, thank you, sorry. It's getting late,
Yes.
it's not May 1 yet.
No, it's not. Okay, Lou's got the motion.
Oh boy.
Is there a second?
The hot-
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Oh, aye, sorry.
Okay. And Article 11, this was the public records management software that we've already,
Got out of it block.
yeah. So we already sort of took care of that, right?
Do we need a separate vote because it's on the special town meeting warrant? Let's leave it.
I think in fact,
That's what we did. No action? Oh, that's right. You
Yeah.
did it down in that, right.
yeah, unless the selectmen end up feeling strongly about it, to leave it on the SPM.
Well, they voted in favor of it, but since there's no money to fund it, if the board, if the FinCom doesn't fund it, it's kind
Well,
of
we'd be
redundant.
recommending no action, and
The town could still vote for it.
town could still vote for it.
I mean, I'll just ask the board on Monday what they want to do.
Okay.
Just take it
Well,
off.
we can
It
do
could
that.
also be covered as a transfer as well. I was just trying to put it here because I didn't really know what the intent was. So I'll probably just recommend that we take it off.
Yeah, because if you did it as a transfer, then there's the commitment to the ongoing licensing, which you think you could do, but,
Yeah.
okay. So there we are at. Mike did send out a new version of the model, although it's
It's
already.
pretty different right now, yeah.
Yeah, it's already,
We made a couple tweaks.
Pretty different.
Very dated, just like that. Well, no, it's a.
that's why for 2 years we did vote tracking and didn't keep
All right,
publishing.
no, so it's fine.
Yep.
Doing that, I've got most of it up to date here.
Okay, so the last bit that we've gotta do tonight is, there's a draft of the annual FinCom letter that I started putting together.
We can't just authorize you to do it?
Well, I don't know, I mean, we're not the world's best wordsmith.
When do we jump
Is
to
that right, like a
overrides
scientist?
and all that good stuff?
Hmm?
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
What was it?
if you want
I'm just, I'm
such
gonna
a
have,
thing.
are there gonna be overrides?
You want paper? Paper?
Masco's not coming in.
It's a draft,
I
so
don't
it's
think
not.
anybody's coming to override.
Yeah.
The
Jen.
question is, the question is how much the free cash to use for some of these
Right,
capital things are over, and
yeah.
then how much free cash
It's
to
not
use to
done.
fund any base budget.
Don't get excited.
And when the snow and ice comes out of turnbacks, and the 200,000 reserve is 100,000 reserve on the salary part, but
That's
then
down to 25.
Yeah, but it got distributed above, so
Yeah.
it really
So
doesn't
salary
actually
reserve
matter.
ends up just getting chewed up.
That's net.
Yeah.
That's
right, so
But-
my point is that the delta's smaller than it looks like.
on Mike's
Correct.
latest version, yes, because we also, that's a very conservative number, it's a very conservatively small number for free cash until we have those discussions about where we're
What we
applying
put
it.
And how much free cash do you apply to base budget?
And do we believe that
In our-
we can bump state aid up by $40,000, because that's what we got.
All right,
for the
we're off
current year.
topic, oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, it feeds into the letter, is the problem.
It does,
Right, right, exactly.
And in
because the
fact,
letter's summarizing everything that we kind of said I think through.
yeah, so I tried to sort of put big picture in here. Some of the numbers are in red because I'm not sure of them, it was my guesstimate, but I think Shay had some things at the January budget forum, so.
Do we want to make a statement in here that we did not get the grant for Donnie Bristol? Did it adds anything?